Good morning and welcome. My name is Abey Kuruvilla. I'm from the University of Wisconsin Parkside, and I am here to talk about sustainable tourism and management in a state called Kerala in India. So the name of the topic is, Can God's Own Country Sustain Itself? And we will talk specifically about eco-friendly practices and concerns for tourism development and management in Kerala. So this is a quick overview of what we intend to cover today. We'll talk about some recent trends in tourism development in India and particularly in the state of Kerala. We will then discuss the adverse impact of tourism in Kerala and also look at the sensitive tourism and emergence of sensitive tourism in Kerala. Just to set the context clearly at the back over here, Southeast Asia is now a leading tourist destination. Tourist arrivals in India were around 5.4 million in 2008. The foreign exchange earnings was about 11.75 billion in 2009. It was about close to 5% of the GDP of the country. The tourism itself supports about 48 million jobs, and it's supposed to be 9% of the total number. Kerala, which is a southern state in India, had a 7.7% GDP in 2007. Right now, Kerala views tourism as one of the major engines for growth, and in fact, some of the few alternatives that are left to grow the economy. Tourism was granted industry status in the year 1986, and Kerala's share of international tourists grew from about 5% in 94 to around 10% in 2004. So it was literally almost a 10% growth in those years. Let's look at just the country and how it's located. If you see on the northern part, we have Jammu and Kashmir, and to the east of Jammu and lower east or southeast of Jammu and Kashmir, we have the Himalaya mountains that actually is in the country of Nepal. On the eastern coast, we have Calcutta, which is somewhat well known because of Mother Teresa and her presence there. On the west coast, we have Gujarat, and below that, you can see the city of Mumbai, which is the commercial capital of India. And then in the south, we have on the eastern coast, Chennai, and also Bangalore, which is almost a software capital. The capital of India is New Delhi, which you see somewhere on the middle top part of the country. And the state of Kerala, which we'll see in the next slide, is the southwest part. It's a very coastal state, and it's obviously a very green state because it's coastal, but also because of the fact that the Western Ghats, they flow from the north to the south on the eastern part of the state, and they hold the rain that comes from the Arabian Sea, allowing Kerala to have a lot of rainfall. And this is one reason that the rainfall in Kerala allows the most biodiverse, almost ecology in the country, and Kerala is therefore a very green state, and in fact one of the greenest states in the country. This is a typical scene in Kerala. Kerala is covered by, or a majority of Kerala has got rice fields or paddy fields as well as coconut trees. And the coconut tree is a very valuable resource for Keralites. In fact, every part of the coconut tree can be used for purposes from furniture to oil to food to also using the coconut water intravenously, the only natural liquid that can be used intravenously for the body. And you also see here a houseboat, which used to be traditional boats that carry rice from one place to another, and now they've been converted as tourist destinations or tourist homes on the water. Kerala is also called the Venice of the East because of the number of waterways and backwaters that flow through the state, and is therefore one of the most beautiful places to visit as well. So let's look at a few different facts about Kerala. It covers a total area of about 15,000 square miles. Kerala is known to have been involved in the spice trade from a very, very long time. In fact, from the 3000 BC with Sumerian civilizations. Jews are said to have come to Kerala in about 573 BC. And in fact, there is a synagogue that still exists from that century in Kerala. Saint Thomas was one of the apostles of Jesus Christ, and he, in fact, came to Kerala in the very first century and brought Christianity there. So a small percentage of Keralites are also Christians, and they were the initial Christians and called the Syrian Christians of India. And so in fact, Christianity came to Kerala before it even moved to the Western world as we know it now. Vasco da Gama, who was obviously an explorer, came in 1498. The British came after that, and the British came in fact as a trading company. So they were called the East India Trading Company, and they colonized India. And finally, India declared her independence in 1947. So it's a fairly recent country, and Kerala obviously is an integral part of India. The population of Kerala is at about 31 to 32 million, according to the 2001 census, with a heavy density of population, so about 2,000 people per square kilometer. Kerala is also known to be one of the least corrupt in India, at the same time one of the most educated workforces in India. In fact, the literacy rate in Kerala is at 100%. Kerala is also known for Ayurveda, which is one of the oldest systems of medicine known to man. Human development indices in Kerala are extremely high. Healthcare is great. Literacy levels are high. The ratio of women to men is actually higher than normal as compared to the rest of India, and it's positive. Kerala is also known for migration. In fact, many Keralites are known to travel around the world. Because of their education levels, they're able to secure jobs in many different parts of the world. And in fact, if you see Indians in other countries, then it's very likely that there will be somebody from Kerala as well. Kerala is known for its natural beauty just because of how green it is and the diverse tourism offerings over there. It's also known for the monsoons, which literally strike the western coast of Kerala on the 1st of June. In fact, that's the day that schools reopen in Kerala, and so children are known to get completely wet on the very first day of class. So let's try to define sustainable tourism, because this is the primary topic of our discussion today. The Globe 90 conference defined sustainable tourism as the management of tourism resources in such a way that fulfill economic, social, and aesthetic needs while maintaining cultural integrity, biological diversity, essential ecological processes, and life support systems. So this is the ideal definition for what we call sustainable tourism. Sustainable tourism is something that must conserve the natural resources, it must respect local culture and traditions, it must benefit the residents, it strives for quality of services and not quantity, and finally, satisfied visitors or tourists must take away new knowledge and therefore send more visitors, and as a result of that, the cycle continues in tourism. This is the ideal situation. Tourism grew dramatically from the 1980s. In fact, in the early 1980s, Kerala was relatively unknown as a tourist destination. And the National Geographic called it one of the top 10 paradises to be seen in the world. It was also called 50 places of a lifetime. And soon after, many travel magazines like Travel and Leisure followed suit, and Kerala was popularized in the rest of the world. The Kerala Tourism Development Corporation and the Department of Tourism have made significant efforts in promoting tourism for the state, and currently it's growing at a rate of 13.31% of the state's tourism industry, and the tourism industry is a major contributor to the state's economy. In 2006, Kerala attracted about 8.5 million tourist arrivals, which was a significant increase of 23 or 24%. So let's look at some examples of what sustainable tourism is not, or what it should not be. And Kovalam, which is one of the most beautiful beach resorts that I have seen, is a classic example. Kovalam was a beach paradise initially. However, because of initial recognition of it as a tourist hotspot in the year 1966, many fishermen were displaced, and it was developed as a tourist destination. From 1986 to 1993, the number of tourist arrivals increased significantly from 78,000 to 140,000, so almost double the size. However, as the negative fallout of increased expansion without sustainable growth, the tourists fell significantly to 54,000 in the 1990s. And some of the reasons were because of the shift from traditional occupations of that location. There was significant solid waste accumulation, high inflation, congestion, and really some of the negative fallouts of drastic tourism. Another example is Kumaragam. Kumaragam is known for kayal, kuil, and karimin. These are the three principles of the backwaters of Kumaragam. Kayal means water, kuil means bird, and karimin means fish. In fact, karimin is one of the most delicious fishes and is an important part of cuisine in Kerala. So Kumaragam was known for kayal, kuil, and karimin. It was one of the most pristine environments, the backwaters of Kerala. Tourism developed dramatically from 1989, and it was really popular by 2000. Farmers started offering their paddy fields at exorbitant prices, and many of the original traditional paddy fields started being covered by mud in order to establish the development of mega tourist infrastructure. What resulted was that the mangrove trees that grew in Kumaragam started getting destroyed. Birds that used to nest on the mangrove forests were scared away by the amount of noise and loudspeakers from these hotels, and we found a vanishing species of birds at that time. The paddy fields, which were the natural fauna or flora of that region, were being converted as a result, resulting in water pollution, sewage disposal in the backwaters, and also dwindling traditional employment sectors like fisheries. So that's a classic example of what sustainable tourism is not and should not be. The tourism vision for 2025 for the state of Kerala, or the government of Kerala, states to promote tourism as a core competency sector for socio-economic development and economic protection. And I think it's an ideal statement to make. Let's look at a background of Kerala before we get to a discussion of what tourism can, should be, and what it is not currently. So it's a land of endless beaches, lots of backwaters, as you can see. These are fishermen who are just by an area called Alapi, and one of the greenest areas in Kerala. Tea and spice mountains in the northern parts of Kerala and Munnar district, where you find tea, and as a part of the tea gardens you also find many of the spices like black pepper that's grown in Kerala. Kerala is also known for some of the other spices like cardamom and of course ginger and many other spices that are used popularly in Indian cuisine. The backwaters of Kerala, like I mentioned, is also known as one of the or the Venice of the East, and it really reflects that in this picture over here. Kerala also has several magical festivals. This is the Thrissur Puram, where you have almost 100 elephants lined side by side in a festival for the local temple, and this is held once a year, and it's really a spectacular scene. There are also several performing arts like Kathakali, which is one of the most traditional forms, and this celebration of a festival called Onam that women are known to dance in. And of course, also boat races. Some of these pictures are from the Kerala tourism website. The boat races of Kerala, they're called the snake boats, and they can sometimes be about 100 feet long and being rowed by at least 100 people. And this is the time of Onam in Kerala, when many of the local population towns come together, and they are supported by their own teams in order to take part in this spectacular race. It's really a magical festival to be able to witness this boat races of Kerala, and they've been going on for centuries. Kerala is also known for Ayurveda, which is one of the most, in fact, one of the most ancient forms of medicine known to man, used with herbs in the region, and it's also a very sustainable, very green, a very holistic approach to medicine. In this, we see a lady who's lying down, and oil, a specific type of herbal oil, is being poured onto her forehead over a period of time. And it's one of the most holistic systems, like I said, of medicine known to man. Kerala is also known for Kalaripayattu. It is a martial art form, and it is said that Kalaripayattu was, in fact, the origin of karate and many of the martial arts that we know today. Also, it's a very traditional form, and you can see that even women participate in Kalaripayattu as a martial arts form. Kerala is known for unique flora. This is Thekadi. It's one of the most beautiful, I think, parks in the region, as well as fauna. The elephant grows wildly as well as domesticated in Kerala. And you can see an herd of elephant over here also in this area called Thekadi. The sobriquet for Kerala is God's own country. So the way Kerala is promoted by Kerala Tourism as well as the government is known as God's own country. There are about 56 ecotourism hotspots in Kerala, particularly the backwaters of Kerala, which house the houseboats. Then there is Kumaragam, Periyar, Thenmala, Eravikulam, just to name a few of them. Here is a typical homestay. Maybe it's not typical, it's one of the better ones, but people are beginning to realize the value of using old homes that were made of teak and really good quality wood to construct these homes. And people instead of getting rid of them are really trying to preserve and converting them into homestays for tourists. However, with development, a lot of architecture changed. And what we found initially of these traditional homes began to be replaced by modern structures made of concrete that came primarily because of the fact that many Keralites moved to the Gulf region of Dubai and the United Arab Emirates, sending a lot of money back home and building these grandiose houses all over Kerala that really were not the most suited for the environment that Kerala is known for. So money from the Gulf really changed the landscape. Although now traditional houses are being restored and people are beginning to rediscover themselves as a state that has something to offer for the rest of the world. This is an increasing trend and also promotes people-to-people tourism as we know it now. Here are a few more pictures of homestays in Kerala. Here is Kumaragam, the resort that I talked about earlier and its development. Some of the initiatives that made Kumaragam what it is today is the Taj Group of Hotels in 1989 acquired a part of that area and promoted what we know as backwater tourism. In 2005, it was proclaimed a special tourism zone. A People's Charter for Sustainable Tourism was developed. Formation of local committees to democratize tourism planning were formed, and therefore people were really involved. The local population were involved. The Gram Panchayat, or the most local government in Kerala or in India, were involved in the process of promoting tourism as well as allowing and giving permission for what needs to happen in that area. So at that time, it was a successful experiment of a local self-government determining what goes into the hotels, whether it's fresh fish or whether it's tomatoes and how they are grown and things like that. So the panchayat or the local government was controlling the resources into the hotels. Development was planned and the tribals were encouraged to get into education in order to be able to interact with tourists and so on. So definitely were some of the positive effects of tourism in this area. Another example is the Periyar Wildlife Sanctuary, which is home to the tiger over here and the elephant that are known to roam the area. Some of the initiatives in that area were to really preserve that as a natural wildlife reserve. The lake was a watering hole for many of the animals in that location. Community-based ecotourism, which allowed revenue to come to the local population, was allowed. Nature walk, in which tribals who knew the area well and who knew the location of the tigers, were used as guides for tourists. And tiger trails, which allowed a reversal of the roles from to a form of development where people were the tribals were making money, and bamboo products such as that use souvenirs by local societies were being sold to tourists, and local agricultural products like revitalized the art in the region, and also animal census was taken. So all of these were extremely positive initiatives that helped the location. Another one is Thenmala, which is also a very green area. And in fact, Thenmala has an interesting story. It was the first planned ecotourism project that was established in 2001. It was a natural habitat for diverse flora and fauna in the region. The rugged terrain of this land harbored a very fragile ecosystem, and bamboo groves and bamboo rafting, jungle camps, and these were some of the really green initiatives that established Thenmala. A really interesting part of the conversion to a green tourism aspect in Thenmala was the fact that some sandalwood smugglers in the area. They were just known to smuggle, and they had several cases against them. They were the ex-sandalwood smugglers that the state had cases against them, but negotiated that if they were able to change and really become guides for tourists for that location, then the cases against them would be withdrawn. And so it's a classic example of a role reversal, where ex-sandalwood smugglers now have become really conservationists and people that really hold the values of tourism, sustainable tourism in that location, also providing livelihood for about 27 families in that area. This is another area known for the mountain goat, Erevikulam. It was developed as a national forest, and several tourist activities like trekking and trout angling and so on are known in this area. So the state does have a government commitment to develop tourism. It is called to be a model for the rest of Asia. Monsoon tourism is being developed, and ecotourism or eco-certification programs are being promoted in the area. However, there are some major points of discussion over here that are important. As we all know, that government policies never really acknowledge the negative fallouts of tourism, and in fact, Kerala continues to offer tourism as an open industry for unlimited number of tourists to be able to come in, as well as investment, which is almost uncontrolled and unregulated. Tourism commercializes and standardizes the original forms of music. So we find that some of the most ancient forms of music, which I'll speak about in a second, are being commercialized for the purpose of just tourists, and in fact being able to adapt just to the needs and demands of tourism. Therefore compromising authenticity and creating what we call a quasi-culture. A classic example is Kathakali, which is one of the most ancient forms of dance in Kerala. It takes about 14 to 16 years to learn this art form of Kathakali. And Kathakali usually performances last over an entire night, 7-8 hours sometimes, where the stories of the Mahabharata and some of the ancient Indian texts are related to the form of dance. In fact, only men are known to perform in Kathakali, and even characters that have women in them are portrayed by men by the clothes that they wear. Currently, however, because of tourism, Kathakali is something that people are beginning to just learn for a few days or a few weeks at a time, and just perform them for 5 or 10 minutes for the sake of the tourist, and is really compromising on what Kathakali really is. Another example is Ayurveda. Ayurveda is one of the most ancient traditional forms of medicine known to man, a very holistic system, and it's a form of life. It's a way of life. Ayurveda is a way of life. It is where you stay in Kerala and you eat the local food, and there's a way of living that is critical for you to be able to really reap the benefits of Ayurveda as a form of life, way of life. However, now Ayurveda is being promoted in small, massage parlors, or Ayurveda as a simple form of massage, which is clearly not what Ayurveda is. The Western tourist wants to be able to experience Ayurveda, and they're given 10, 15 or half an hour of massages, and they're called Ayurveda, which is really not what Ayurveda is. Temples that were sacred and were the seat of holiness for many Keralites are now have become, as a result of tourist traffic, really places where a lot of business takes place. And houseboats that were traditionally used to move rice and commodities from one location to another are now being used purely for tourism purposes. In fact, they are going beyond the level of what the ecosystem of that area can hold. The current houseboats that are being built are sometimes several stories high. They have conference facilities with televisions, and as a result of all of this, they're solid waste into the water. The ecosystem is very fragile. It cannot hold the number of houseboats, which are currently at 700. Maybe the capacity is around 200, and it's many times the capacity of the backwaters that you find these houseboats in. The flora of that region, which is the plankton on the water, is being destroyed, and therefore the fish that grow in that area is also being destroyed. So these are definitely some of the negative fallouts of tourism in Kerala that need to be discussed and really brought to light, so that we can make sure that it's a sustainable form. The Department of Ecotourism was formed separately from the Department of Tourism, and literature says that although it's supposed to be a completely different department that is supposed to really cater only to a very specific type of tourist that is limited, we find now that the way ecotourism and regular tourism is promoted is equally aggressive by the tourism department, and there's no difference in the way that either of these are promoted. Kerala has also seen several CRZ violations or coastal regulation zone, and Kerala has requested exemption from the time that India instituted the CRZ regulations. And unfortunately, we find that about 30% of CRZ violations in Kerala are because of tourist activities. Another interesting issue that we see is that some of the true power that people are supposed to hold in a democratic situation for tourism is being substituted by these committees that are formed that could just be nominated and not true representation of the people. In fact, a recent allegation has been that the Tsunami Rehabilitation Fund, which was crores of rupees for India, is in fact being used for tourism infrastructure for the state. And this is definitely something that that has to be brought to light even more in discussion. In short, ecological, economic, and social sustainability questions are what is required in Kerala, and tourism needs to result in solid economic growth for the population, not low-end jobs, but high-end jobs. We need to preserve the ecology of the state, as well as social sustainability is the need of the hour. Some examples we can see are that the energy deficit region, Kerala, although called itself an energy deficit region, provides subsidies for hotels and the accommodation industry, while at the same time the common Keralite has to go through load shedding, which is several hours of without power in their homes. So Kumaragam and Bekal are other examples. Some of the future work that can possibly be done by academicians for Kerala would be to develop carrying capacity studies. There are in fact currently no carrying capacity studies that look at what population or what tourist growth the state or the region can sustain. Also, we need to look at the bypassing of the agrarian society to information, just getting rid of the information society and what effects it has. How to use the natural resources that exist in Kerala, the natural and cultural resources, and preserve them in an authentic form. How to develop basic amenities for the tourists, as well as studying the green supply chains, the supply chains for the tourism industry, from the growth of the fish by the local population or tomatoes by the local population, and it goes through the supply chain of supply through the hotel and into the distribution line. And what we may find is that the distribution line is not really green. In fact, there could be a lot of plastic, and the way waste is disposed could be questionable. So we really need to study if the supply chain is really green, or is it just a name. Also, we need a systematic study on income and employment potential for the population. I welcome any kind of involvement. These are some areas that I'm involved in, particularly the green supply chain, and we are in collaboration with several different universities working on this project currently. But any kind of information, any kind of possible collaboration is invited. I do thank the University of Sviluppo for this opportunity for being able to present this this presentation. And my name is again Abey Kuruvilla. I'm from the University of Wisconsin Parkside, and I welcome any kind of collaboration or work that can be done together. I know that some of the issues that you look at in Turkey, Italy and this region are very similar to what we are looking at in Kerala, and there are obviously many opportunities and possibilities for collaboration and growth. Thank you.